Let us talk about the digestive system. And let us take the digestive system as the body's processing factory that breaks down food into nutrients your body can use for energy, growth, and repair. In the digestive system, we are going to be talking about the alimentary canal and the accessory organs. We have 8 major structures that make up the alimentary canal, which include the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. While the accessory organs include the salivary gland, we have 3 major salivary glands, which include the parotid gland, the submandibular gland, and the sublingual gland. Also, we have the gallbladder as part of the accessory organs. We have the pancreas and the liver as well. They are called the accessory organs because they are not part of the alimentary canal. Rather, they just play a role in digestion. Now, going over to the alimentary canal, we have the mouth. We also call it the oral cavity. In the mouth, we have the boundaries, which include the posterior, anterior, lateral, and the roof of the mouth. In the roof of the mouth, we have the hard palate and the soft palate. In the anterior part of the mouth, which is here, the front part of the mouth, we have the lips. Then in the posterior part of the mouth, which is at the back of the mouth, we have the oropharynx. Then in the lateral part of the mouth, we have the cheek, or the muscles that make up the cheek. Now, going over to the oral cavity as well, we also have what we call the salivary gland. I've already mentioned it. This salivary gland secretes substances that help in protection, breakdown of nutrients, and the rest of them. Going over to the pharynx. In the pharynx, it is divided into 3 major parts, which is the nasopharynx, the one at the nasal cavity, oropharynx, the one at the oral cavity, and the laryngopharynx, the one at the larynx. Going over to the esophagus. The esophagus is a long tube that runs down from the 6th cervical vertebrae to the 11th thoracic vertebrae. The esophagus is a 25 cm tube that runs down from the 6th cervical vertebrae to the 11th cervical vertebrae. Then it might interest you to know that in the walls of the alimentary canal, we have 4 major structures that make it up, or most part of the alimentary canal, we have 4 major structures that make it up, which is from the inner to the outer. We have the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscle layer, and the serosa. Going over to the stomach. In the stomach, we have 4 major parts, which include the cardiac, the fundus, the body, and the pylori. In the stomach, we have 3 major cells that secrete substances into the stomach, and these substances are called the gastric juices. We have the parietal cells in the stomach that secrete what we call hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. We also have the chief cells that secrete pepsinogen, and we have the G cells that secrete gastrin. We are still going to talk about that later. In the stomach, we have the greater curvature and the lesser curvature. This is the greater curvature, while this is the lesser curvature. Going over to the small intestine, we have 3 major parts of the small intestine. We have the duodenum, which is the first part. We have the duodenum should be located here. We have the jejunum, which is the middle part, and we have the ileum, which is the last part of the small intestine. Now going over to the large intestine, we have some structures that make up the large intestine, which include the appendix, the cecum, the colon, the rectum, and the anus. The appendix is actually regarded as the vestigial organ because we can live without it, even though it performs some function in the body. Going over to the colon of the small intestine, we have different parts of the colon. We have the ascending colon, that is the one that is going up. We have the transverse colon, we have the descending colon, and we have the sigmoid colon, which is S-shaped. Now there is a connection between the last part of the small intestine, which is the ileum, and the first part of the small intestine. This connection is called, or this junction is regarded as the ileocecal valve, where undigested nutrients or food leave the small intestine into the large intestine for it to be eliminated through the anus. So this literally means that any food that is undigested in the small intestine will eventually get to the large intestine for it to leave the body through the anus. Now, if you don't understand what we mean by the alimentary canal, see the alimentary canal as a tube that runs down from a particular opening and ends down to another opening. The alimentary canal runs down from the mouth. It's a tube that starts from the mouth, runs down to the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine before it opens again at the anus. That is why I regarded the other organs as accessory organs, because they are not part of the alimentary canal but play a role in digestive system. Now let us talk about how the three major nutrients are being digested, which include proteins, carbohydrates, fat, and oil. We are going to be using food examples to discuss how these major nutrients are being digested in the body. Of course, you know that the end product of protein digestion is amino acid. End product of carbohydrate digestion is glucose or monosaccharide, while the end product of fat and oil digestion is fatty acid and glycerol. Now, before I go into this, there are some enzymes that digest these nutrients. There are two major types of digestion. We have the mechanical digestion and we have the chemical digestion. The mechanical digestion is the one that the teeth digest by itself, while the chemical digestion is the one the enzymes of the body digest. That is why it's called chemical digestion. Now, there is what we call pancreatic juices that is secreted by the pancreas into the duodenum. There is a connection between the gallbladder and the pancreas, which is called the duodenal papillae. That is where these two organs meet for them to secrete their secretions into the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum. The pancreas is that one organ that has two major functions, which is endocrine and exocrine function. We are going to be talking about the exocrine functions because it's actually the one that is involved in digestion. In the exocrine function of pancreas, it secretes what we call pancreatic juices that helps to break down this protein, carbohydrate, and fat and oil. It secretes it into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. Now let us talk about the digestion of protein. Once you take in any proteinous food, example egg, the digestion does not start in the mouth just like carbohydrate. It runs down from the esophagus when it gets to the body of the stomach. Of course, you know that in the body of the stomach, it is highly acidic because of the presence of hydrochloric acid, which is secreted by the parietal cells in the stomach. When this protein gets to the stomach, there is an enzyme secreted by the chief cells which is called pepsinogen. Now, this pepsinogen is inactive, meaning that it cannot do any function in the protein. Rather, it will be activated to an active enzyme by the HCl secreted by parietal cells in the stomach. Now, this active form of pepsinogen is called pepsin. This protein will not be completely digested in the stomach. Rather, it goes down to the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. When it goes down to the duodenum, there are enzymes secreted by the pancreas, which is called chemotrypsinogen and trypsinogen. These are inactive enzymes that will further be activated by enterokinase into active forms, which are called trypsin and chemotrypsin. Now, these enzymes further digest the protein into the last part, which is called amino acid. Now, once this protein is digested to amino acid, it will further be absorbed either at the jejunum or the ileum into the bloodstream before it gets to the liver through the portal vein, before it's now be distributed to different parts of the body where it does its function as repair, growth, etc. Now let us talk about carbohydrate. The digestion of carbohydrate starts in the mouth because of the presence of an enzyme called salivary amylase. When it starts in the mouth, it goes down to the esophagus, stops at the fundus of the stomach. The digestion of the carbohydrate stops at the fundus of the stomach because the HCl in the body of the stomach does not accept the digestion of carbohydrate. It continues its digestion at the first part of the small intestine, which is the duodenum, due to the presence of what we call pancreatic amylase that further digests the carbohydrate into a monosaccharide, which can be glucose. Now, this glucose will also be absorbed by the microvilli in the small intestine, either at the ileum, jejunum, or even at the duodenum. Now, I'm going over to the digestion of fat and oil. The digestion of fat and oil actually starts in the mouth to an extent due to the presence of lipase secreted by the salivary gland. The digestion also continues from the mouth to the stomach because HCl can actually support the digestion of this fat and oil, but a little bit, not actually sufficient to break it down. Now, when these lipids go down to the first part of the small intestine, which is the duodenum, the digestion of fat and oil is actually supported by a substance produced in the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and released when needed, which is called bile. Now, this bile help in the emulsification of fat because digestion of fat and oil actually take a long time. So this bile help to emulsify it, break it down into simpler molecules for it to be easily absorbed into the lymphatic system. Then when this bile is released from the gallbladder into the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum, it further emulsifies the fat, and the end product of fat and oil digestion is fatty acid, and glycerol. After the digestion of this fat in the small intestine, it will now be absorbed in the microvilli through the lactose before it enters the lymphatic system. Now, I hope you have understood how proteins, carbohydrate, fat, and oil are being digested. Now, in all these things that have happened, in any case where you have a meal or nutrient or food that is undigested, it will leave the body, maybe due to the fact that the molecules are too large for digestion. Now, when these meals are not being able to absorb in the small intestine, they will leave the small intestine and pass through the ileocecal junction and get to the large intestine. Now, in the large intestine, the meal will go through the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, stored in the rectum, and released through the anus when there is too much force present at the anus. If you have any question as regards to the digestive system, you can drop it in the comment section. I promise to reply to them. And I also want you to know that there are lots of things to know about the digestive system, but I can't say everything in this single video. If you have any question, you drop it at the comment section. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you.